Alrighty. So today we're going to be looking at the different types of poems. Um, and we are going to start off with our poetry slam. So this is Somewhere in America.
So proud of my next guest. They're three young women who are determined to change the world, one word at a time. They're part of a nonprofit organization called Get Lit, a program here in Los Angeles focused on teaching teens literacy through poetry. They recently opened for John Legend at the Hollywood Bowl, and now they are here to share their powerful performance with us. Please welcome Melissa, Zaria, and Rhiannon.
Here in America, in every single state, they have a set of standards for every subject, a collection of lessons that the teacher is required to teach by the end of the term.
But the greatest lessons you will ever teach us will not come from your syllabus.
The greatest lessons you will ever teach us, you will not even remember. You never told us what we weren't allowed to say. We just learned how to hold our tongues. Now, somewhere in America, there's a child holding a copy of Catcher in the Rye, and there's a child holding a gun.
But only one of these things have been banned by their state government, and it's not the one that can rip through flesh.
It's the one that says F you on more pages than one, because we must control what the people say, how they think.
And if they want to become the overseer of their own selves,
then we'll show them a real one. And somewhere in America, there's a child sitting at his mother's computer, reading the homepage of the KKK's website. And that's open to the public, but that child will have never read To Kill a Mockingbird because the school has banned it for its use of the N-word.
Maya Angelou is prohibited because we're not allowed to talk about rape in school.
We were taught that just because something happens doesn't mean you are to talk about it.
They build a brand new shopping mall
so that we'll forget where we're really standing, on the bones of the Hispanics, on the bones of the slaves, on the bones of the Native Americans, on the bones of those who fought just to speak.
Transcontinental railroad to Japanese internment camps.
There are things missing from our history books.
Private schoolgirls search for hours through boutiques trying to find the prom dress of their dreams.
While kids on the South Side spend hours searching through the lost and found. They're coming soon, and that's the only jacket they have.
Kids are late to class for night shift.
They give awards for best attendance, but not for keeping your family off the streets. These kids will call your music ghetto. They will tell you you don't talk right.
Then they'll get in the backseat of a car with all their friends,
singing about how they're about that life and stuff. Somewhere in America,
schools are promoting self-confidence
while they whip out their scales and shout out your body fat percentage in class.
Where the heftier girls are hiding away, and the slim fit beauties can't help but giggle with pride.
The preppy kids go thrift shopping because they think it sounds fun, but we go because that's all we've got money for. Because Mama works for the city. Mama only gets paid once a month. Somewhere in America, a girl's getting felt up by a man on the subway.
She's still in her school uniform. Part of the appeal.
It's hard to run in knee socks and Mary Janes, and all her male teachers know it too. Coaches cover up star players raping freshmen after the dance.
Women are killed for rejecting dates.
But God forbid I bring my girlfriend to prom. The girl is blackout drunk at the after party. Take a picture before her wounds wake her. How many pixels is your sanity worth?
What's a 4.0? Cold jury.
What you learn in class today? Don't talk loud. Don't speak loud. Keep your hands to yourself. Keep your head down.
Keep your eyes on your own paper. If you don't know the answer,
fill and see. Always wear earbuds when you ride the bus alone. If you feel like someone's following you, pretend you're on the phone. A teacher never fails. Only you do. Every state in America, the greatest lessons are the ones you don't remember learning.
All right. And so remember, you necessarily have to agree with the content of a poem to notice the way that it's delivered, right? Because some things in there you might agree with, some things you might disagree with, which is okay. But they did well speaking together. Very few mistakes in their how they were reciting it. All right. The first two major types of poems are lyric poetry and narrative poetry. So lyric poetry is just like a short poem that conveys a single strong emotion, does not tell a story. Narrative poetry is going to tell a story. And here are a couple types of lyric poems. Ms. Kirko, you want to do this one?
Yes. Haiku is a lyric poem, which is easy to remember because it's extremely short. It originated in Japan, and it only has 3 lines, but it does follow a very specific pattern of the syllables. So the first line will always have 5 syllables, the second line 7, and the third line 5. It'll always follow that pattern, so that means that in the whole poem there are only 17 syllables. And since it's so short, it's normally only about one subject. A lot of times that's nature, and it's rarely going to rhyme.
And you want to do Tonka as well?
Yes, so this is also a Japanese poetic form or poem, and it is short as well, except it is 5 lines, but it follows a very strict syllable pattern as well. And this one goes 5, 7, 5, 7, 7. Okay, so it starts out with the same pattern, but it adds on 2 more lines, and it evokes a strong feeling with a single image. So again, it's so short, so it's creating one single image for the readers. And again, the short structure allows for focus on a single image or topic. And a lot of times that makes it really impactful because they're just talking about this one single thing.
All right, and Miss Terrell, you want to go over this common type of narrative poem?
Okay, we're talking about ballad narrative. A ballad, a story that is told in song, has a strong meter and a refrain. Whole lines or stanzas repeated at regular intervals.
So whereas like a lyric poem will just sort of talk about something, a narrative poem tells a story about something, right? So here is a famous example. It's Old Red by Blake Shelton.
Love this example.
Love got me in here and love got me out.
So sort of cool story about how the dog helped him escape from prison. But notice it tells a story, right? It's got a noticeable plot. Mr. You want to go over the folk ballad part of ballad?
Okay, the ballad, folk ballad, passed down orally from generation to generation and often tells stories of love or violence, contain formulatic phrases to make them easy to remember. True, true love, white as milk, red, red lips.
And we'll do one. All right, Miss Van Arsdale, you want to go over a sonnet?
Sonnets are 14-line poems, usually lambic pentameter, and it's lyric poetry, okay? So it does not tell a story. And again, it's a very specific, kind of like a haiku, so it has to have the 14 lines. It's got specific prerequisites, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
So we have a 14-line poem, excuse me. So English Shakespearean sonnets, they contain 3 quatrains, which is 4-line stanza. They have a concluding couplet, which is a 2-line stanza. So you have 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 2. That's how you get your 14 total, your 14 lines. Each quatrain gives a point, and the final couplet sums it all up. Okay, so you have idea, 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 and then summation. And Shakespeare used these. So that's, again, kind of how it's broken up. So you've got your quatrain 1, your quatrain 2, your quatrain 3, which each have 4 lines. And then your closing couplet, which has 2 lines. And then you can see on the left, we talked about rhyme last. You have your rhyme scheme. So that first quatrain, you've got 4 lines, so it's A, B, A, B. So line 1 and 3 rhymes, and line 2 and 4 rhymes. And then it continues on. So your second quatrain, again, you have line 5 and 7 that rhymes, and line 6 and 8 that rhymes. And notice that you're not using your A's and B's, so they technically don't rhyme with that first quatrain. So just your 2 C's rhyme and your 2 D's rhyme. And then you have your quatrain 3, which is, that rhyme scheme is E, F, E, F. So that kind of follows the same pattern. So you have the first line rhymes in the third line, and then the second and the fourth. And then that closing couplet, that rhyme scheme is GG, which means that both of those lines end and rhyme together.
And then, so that was Shakespearean sonnet, then Italian sonnet. Instead of 3-3-3-2, it goes 8 and 6. So it's divided into an octave and a sestet. And 8 plus 6 is 14 as well. And so it goes A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A, C, D, E, C, D, E, instead of A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G. And then an ode. An ode is a lofty lyric poem. So it was a long lyric poem about a serious subject written in dignified style. It comes from ancient Greece. So it's like, oh, an ode to something. Like if I wrote an ode to Miss Terrell, I would write a long poem about her.
What about Ode to My Dirty Socks?
Yeah, we usually read that one. I love that poem. And then epic poem is a very, very long narrative poem about a hero. So you all read one last year, The Odyssey.
Mhm.
So very long. And then one that's not in here that I do want us to know is elegy. So an elegy is a poem of remembrance for the dead. So we usually read "Oh Captain, My Captain"
Mhm.
by Walt Whitman. So those are your different types of poems. And then you're going to take the poetry terms quiz tonight and submit that. It's over all the different notes that we've taken and learned. So anything else to add for today?
I think so.
No, poetry is one of my favorites. So
Yeah,
National
agree.
Month, yeah, it's Poetry Month.
Exactly. All right. Thank you guys. Don't forget to take that poetry terms quiz by midnight on Classroom.